How's it going, man?
Doing good, bro.
Yeah.
Doing good. Yeah, we're finally kind of getting a little more systematized and organized with everything. Been spending a lot of time in really documenting the process, making sure that we have clearly defined roles. You know, everyone has their own seat, right? And they understand like their position, right? Giving them kind of ownership and really trying to push decentralized command, right? Which that's like a military term. But you know, how do we hand over ownership for each individual area so you can kind of take that baton and really own it?
Right. So is that? I'm assuming you're running a team now. Oh, you told me you have a couple of guys that you're running with, correct?
Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving parts, bro. As far as our in-house team, we're somewhat lean. I got 4 VAs in the Philippines. One of them's a lead manager. The other 3 are full-time cold callers. I have 1 acquisitions manager. We did have 2, but we just kind of trimmed that down a little bit. My wife is running transaction coordination and communication with the hedge funds that we're partnered with. And then beyond that, that's the in-house team. Beyond that, just partners, man. We got a lot of JV partners, people that are kind of assuming the vision with the retail code, which, you know, we got 2 hedge funds that are paying like 100% ARV, which is crazy, right?
Golly.
They're more in the bigger metropolitan markets like Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh, Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, Tampa. A lot of different areas, and there's some tertiary linear markets too. But man, 90% of my business is out of state right now. It's just so hard. So last week I pulled a bunch of South Carolina data. I'm like, you know what? We just finished up our last rehab. It's been a little bit slow here. Might as well try to prospect and find something. And dude, we went from like 10 leads a day in some of the retail markets to like 3 or 4 between all of our callers, right? So I'm like, what's going on here? But dude, all I can really just assume is that there's a lot of competition coming into South Carolina. There's a lot of big money coming. You know, there is some active hedge funds here as well. Not any that quite pay retail like we have in some of these metro markets, but it's big, you know, big money coming down. Plus, South Carolina's hitting the map for like top 10 places to move for millennials, top 10 places for young entrepreneurs. It's hitting the map for like top 10 places to invest in real estate, you know. So we're talking like Business Insider and some big sites that are kind of pushing it. So and then you put COVID on top of that, right? And you got people just moving down to the south by the boatload because they're like, hey, free, simple living, you know, where we're not stacked on top of each other. So it's a lot of different things, man.
With that, what is your, what is your play on, you know, Jesus, it's a loaded question, but because that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out right now. Because obviously, you know, I'm young. I've done this I got into real estate 2 years ago as a realtor, and then started really getting into like the off-market investing stuff a year ago, right? Started buying some properties, but we were buying them, and they were like not turnkey, but it wasn't things we were buying with real ability to gain a ton of equity in.
Right.
But at this point, I've kind of I've gotten to the point where I'm able to find a deal, identify, you know, the value of it, lenders that will give me the funds for the majority of it and the rehab, and I can kind of, you know, do the whole birth end where it's just like, hey, I'll put some money in, fix it up, refinance, pull it out, and I could keep it. Like right now I'm working on one in Anderson that I'm like, right now with the way things are going, I'm trying to figure out, do I need to put my focus on flipping things? Do I need to put my focus on buying and holding things, you know, long term? I mean, obviously I'm young, so there's a benefit to that. But that was one of the things I wanted to kind of ask you and get your take on. It's like, what is your thought on that with the way things are going?
It's a good question. So I would say if any of us had a crystal ball, we'd all be millionaires, but
Right.
all I can do is speculate. But what I'm seeing with market trends and just seeing how much money the government has printed last year alone, right? Like 40% of all US dollars in circulation were printed in 2020, right?
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. So hyperinflation is coming. And I think a lot of the big hedge funds are hedging against that, hence hedge fund, right? So right now the play is like commodities, like real estate. So bro, I say 100%. I think buy and hold is the play.
Really?
I do. Okay. I really do. A lot of people are like, hey, we're in this big bubble. But dude, I don't think it's a bubble, but it's not a financial bubble. The reason for the bubble is we have a record low inventory shortage across the entire country, right? So there's way more buyers than there is houses for sale. To make matters worse, these hedge funds are coming and buying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of houses across the country in any medium to metro market, right? Dude, I think that in the next 10 years, majority of median income housing is going to be corporate owned, right? So it's going to be much harder for a median income family to be able to afford a house, Right. We're also seeing that in like the business space too. So one of our friends, they owned Baker Auto Collision here in Lexington and Columbia. And they just sold out, right? He's a little bit older. His son was kind of taking over his position in the company. But there's a big company called Gerber that's just a big corporation, right, that owns a bunch of body shops. But they're really just like a fund, right, syndication group. So what's happening, I think, across the board is, you got these super intelligent financial minds, and they'll hire kids like fresh out of Harvard, fresh out of Yale, that are just like super data analysis, and they can crunch numbers at a high level. So they're just coming in, dude, and like looking at businesses, looking at the numbers, assessing the data, and they're making decisions based on the data, right? Based on what they can make. And really what it comes down to it is just, hey, is the cap rate that we can get on this cash on cash return, does it work? And I think that COVID just accelerated that from happening, So they not only bought out Baker, they bought out John Harris, which is another like smaller mom and pop auto shop. And I think similar stuff like that is happening across almost every single industry, across most cities in the United States. So it's a tough one, bro. I think we're obviously, whenever there's like a big market cycle and a downturn, general economics, right? It's all cyclical. Every 10 years or so, market shifts. And every time it shifts, there's a larger separation of wealth. That gap gets larger, right? The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. But this time, I think that wealth gap is like, it's happening 10x, right? So it's getting multiplied times 10, where I think of it like a vacuum is going into the economy, and all this money that's been printed, you got the general consumers who are using it to buy like Jordans and maybe new cars and everything else. And you got these smart financial minds that are literally, dude, just loading up on assets, right? Buying all these houses that people used to own, and now it's going to be corporatized.
So, do you think that there will, hold on, hey, stop. Golly, 2 puppies. Do you think that there will be, because that's another thing I'm trying to figure out, is there going to be, what's going to hit first? Is cash going to mean nothing, or are prices of properties going to dip first? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you going to, and because it seems like there's a likelihood, right? Like when you were talking about hyperinflation. Okay, is $100,000 going to, if I hold on to that, am I going to be able to buy a ton more properties than I am now? Or is it going to be like that $100,000 is worth nothing almost? You know what I mean?
I think the latter.
That's really.
Like Grant Cardone says, cash is trash. He was saying that 10 years ago, right?
Broke.
But
stay broke.
Dude, honestly, cash, especially right now, it's trash, bro. It's, think about how much free money is just getting handed out, right? It's like, and it's being imprinted into our brains as, our psychology slowly shifts, right? It's almost like enabling people across the country, like, hey, you don't have to go to work. You can collect unemployment checks. We know it's been a hard year. Take a little bit of stimmy, take that stimmy handout. Right. It's like a little dopamine hit for the consumer. Like, it's just enough to kind of keep you floating, bro. But for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. You can't just print money out of thin air and not have it affect the monetary value, right?
Right.
So, dude, honestly, I don't think there's going to be a big real estate crash. And I think whenever the eviction moratoriums and the freeze from foreclosures gets lifted, ultimately, I think that a lot of these bankers already have connections with these hedge funds, where
they're just gonna turn them right over.
Yeah, in the past, dude, they'd have to have these big sheriff sales and foreclosure auctions. But, dude, I think where everything is now, because hedge funds are so prevalent in the single-family market and industry, I think the bankers are just going to kind of hand over the portfolios to these funds, bro. Kind of, cutting out the middleman consumer.
Yeah. So, the next question. Sorry, I'm bombarding you with questions.
No, you're good.
This is something interesting. And this isn't like I'm not one to like speak ill, so I'm not I'm not a name dropper or anything like that. But it seemed like in the short period of time that I have been doing real estate, on market and off market stuff, investments, it's like every time that I have got in bed with someone, it turns out to be crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like every time it's like, oh man, I finally found someone that's like just willing to kind of give me advice or like help each other out. And then it's like, there's always like an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
And I've even had some people where it's like, I'm the type of guy where it's like, hey, you know what? I would rather preserve a relationship than make a quick buck. And like, I have some guys that I've been friends with for a long, long time that it's like, I'm like almost get like borderline trying to screw, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Screw me. And so it's been difficult because I don't have anybody, I know I talked to you about like, my dad and stuff, on that side of things.
Yeah.
But I haven't had someone that I can be like, I guess really just like ask basic questions, you know what I mean? So it's been like, it's just kind of figure it out on your own kind of thing. Like every now and then I'll DM like Max Maxwell.
Yeah.
every now and then I'll get lucky and he'll hit me back up. Shoot, now I just lost my question. Dadgummit.
So with that, I'll piggyback on that, giving you some time to think about it. The way I see partnerships, man, is I've seen them work in some rare cases, right? But if anyone stepping into a long-term type of partnership needs to think through it real hard, right? Because it's a marriage, bro. You're getting in bed with somebody long-term, and even if your affairs and everything is clean cut and in writing and everyone seems to be on the same page in that season, 5 years down the road, 10 years later, or even earlier, or what happens if one of the partners gets married and their spouse has different political views or financial views and starts pulling, it's
right.
So,
well, I'm kind of committed. I had some crap hit the fan. And I've kind of committed. I'm like literally my brother-in-law's here with me, and I'm teaching him the ropes of real estate. And I've told him like, hey, I'm fine with doing deals and working together, but I won't I'm like borderline, like I don't know that I'll ever do a long-term partnership.
Again. Do a short-term joint venture. Relationships make the world go round,
Sure.
And I never believed in them as much as I do now. Like the past 4 years, I've been sourcing all of our own deals, direct to seller, building out our systems, cold calling, building it up. Like in the past, I used to think of joint ventures like daisy chain. Why are you going to take someone else's deal and sell it, right? But my mindset shifted in a pretty radical way with it just since we've been doing a lot of business with these retail hedge funds. I'm like, you got a major connection with a big money group, right? And they can pay more than anyone else in the market. And they'll buy a deal that's not even a deal for anyone else, right? So, dude, like half of my business now is joint ventures, right? We've turned a big focus to like, hey, let's equip and empower our people, give them the tools they need to win. You know, we can give them all the data, all the zip codes, all the buy boxes. I've gone as far as having our VAs train other teams' VAs in like our standard processes and just kind of turning them loose and, hey, go find some deals. If there's something that work, we'd love to partner up. But across any board, dude, like, and I guess it opened my eyes in a major way too, like partnerships across different industries, man, happen all the time, you know, and if you can leverage other people's equity, whether it be sweat or knowledge or whatever it is, right? Like teamwork makes the dream work, bro. Real estate's a team sport.
Yeah.
But yeah, long-term partnerships, just be careful, dude. I stay away from them.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, and the one that I was in was like, I was friends for a long, like childhood friends, you know what I mean? And even that, and it's, you know, I'm not even like, oh, they did this or that. It was just like, it just doesn't work because, and that's exactly what happens. Like their ideas of what they wanted to do just changed. You know what I mean? It's like, and that happens and I get it, you know what I mean? But it puts you in tough situations because it's like we own like a portfolio, not a big portfolio, but a portfolio of homes together. And they decided, hey, I don't really want to do single family anymore. I want to do commercial. And so we've owned them for 2 years and they're like, hey, we want to liquidate all of them. And it was just like, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? We spent 2 years building that. Like, why would we liquidate them? We're not going to make anything. And they're just like, we just want to. And I'm like,
so
okay.
That's when you, I mean, sometimes having an intermediary, right? Having even an attorney step in without any interest in either party, but just coming in to mediate and let's talk about this. Like, I mean, have that discussion. If we were to sell this portfolio tomorrow, what are we assuming like the cash on cash return would be after splitting those profits? I mean, depending on the amount of equity in there, what would it take just to buy them out? Right?
Well, that was the discussion we had is, hey, do I just, buy them out as is? And it's not to say that it's not possible, but that was just an example. Another question I had though, is because you talked about having people in the Philippines doing cold calling and stuff like that. Do you, in your opinion, is that like, I know a lot of people just say whatever you do, just consistency, whatever your strategy may be. But I mean, like I still sit in the office and cold call. You know what I mean? I still go out, and I mean, again, I've only been doing wholesaling, and it's probably half of my business, maybe not even for a year now. But it's still like I'm still pulling right up to people's houses and writing a letter or knocking on their door, whatever it may be. And I'm kind of trying to figure out, because I started in real estate and I realized it wasn't scalable. Like the residential real estate side of things was not scalable. The amount of work that you had to be involved to have a team, and then the cuts, it just didn't make sense. You know what I mean? At least in my opinion, when I looked at that versus wholesaling. But I'm trying to also weigh out, okay, what is the way to go with growing that aspect of the business? Is it getting virtual workers? Is it just doing heavy marketing? There's a lot of strategy, so I wanted to kind of see what your opinion on it has been, because I'm sure you've tried some different things.
Yeah, good question. I've tried it all. I used to have the mindset, bro, of we'd get a couple big deals coming through. Like I built my business on the back of cold calling, right? That's something that's always slow, steady, consistent. It's always been there. I should say quick, steady, consistent. I believe in leveraging virtual assistants in different countries. I've tried stateside callers. I've tried Filipino callers. We got a new team in Nigeria too that's pretty effective. I'm talking with their manager about possibly getting like a virtual call force. But that's, for another day. Dude, Filipino VAs bring in, for the amount of time invested, pretty dang close to the same amount of leads as a stateside caller might bring, right?
Really?
And it just comes down to your ability to release control of operations, right? Have you read the E-Myth? Michael Gerber, the E-Myth? That's a good book, bro. Or Than Merrill revisited it and wrote E-Myth for real estate investors. But it really just talks about, escaping the technician role. Instead of being like, you got technician, manager, and then CEO, right? So you need to learn, as hard as it is, especially wanting to have that full control of your business, how do you let go and hand it off to someone else to really just put your trust that they're going to move it forward? Obviously, you have to have systems in place first. But back to it, bro. I used to have, we'd get a big closing coming through, and I'd be like, let's go big. Go big and invest in a ton of marketing. So we're like turning on the pay-per-click engine. Our SEO has always been pretty, well, at least the past several years, been pretty strong. Direct mail, cold calling, text, like everything. But man, if you're in too many different areas, you're just going to eat up your cash, right? And pay-per-click, I was profitable about 2 years ago, but over the past year and a half, man, it just started eating my lunch money.
Yeah.
Direct mail too, bro. It's just, running a lean machine is the way to go, right? And that's coming from the other side where we're spending $25,000 a month between marketing and people, right? You have a couple banging months, you're on top of the world, and then you got a couple slow ones, not a whole lot of closings, and literally your bank account just starts depleting, bro. You're looking at those numbers just going out, bro. You don't want that stress, you don't want that overhead. I think simplicity is key, and as investors, bro, we try to complicate everything, right? We try to put these complicated, unique systems in place, and systems are important, right? You need processes, but instead of trying to build out this massive automation machine, just keep it simple, dude.
Yeah.
Cold calling and text blasting is the way to go, bro. I think. Yeah. At least right now. At least in this market.
I've had decent success with it, especially considering I've yet to really put 100%, even 60% into it, you know what I mean? So that considered, I think it's been good. And a lot of the people that I have, obviously my brother-in-law, my sister's out in Texas. So now I've got her driving for dollars type of deal.
Wow.
Out in Dallas, cause she's in college, and, she literally called me. She's like, hey, I'm broke and I'm trying to you know what I mean? I'm trying to finish school. And she's a little bit older than me. And so I just started teaching her that side of things. But people like that, I'm just like, hey, I'll just share, I'll share whatever I make with you type of thing. Yeah. Which has been good for me at this point, because it's I don't have overhead, you know what I mean? I only pay when I make type of thing, which I'm fine with. But I'm curious as to, okay, how do I really start to scale my business? I was really considering going to, have you seen that? Have you been to one of those tab resort or tag retreat?
No. So it looks very new, bro.
Yeah, they're only 5 years old. 4 or 5 years old.
That's Terry Thayer, right? Terry Thayer's gig. You got a lot of big hitters this year on that.
Yeah, I know Max is going. There are a couple guys that I recognize on there, and actually, I talked to them for a little bit. The whole tab. I guess there's one girl, Lexi, who kind of handles all of that, and I was like, man, I'm still considering going, just because for one, I've never been to a single real estate anything, never. I've gone to one of Shane Ninen's. Is it Ninen?
Yeah.
Say his name?
Yep.
One of Shane's networking events. But other than that, I've never been to any. And but I've got a buddy who is he's they're 10x gurus. They go to every 10x event there is, and they're my age, and they're dropping $30,000 on a to go on an event for a couple days. Granted, they're they work day and night, you know what I mean? Literally day and night. Grew an insurance business to within a year to passively making $500,000. just ridiculous. You know what I
That's
mean?
crazy.
Kids, 23
Yeah.
years old.
Wow.
But that was something I picked his brain. I'm like, man, what do you do you suggest? And that was one of the things they said is like getting into taking the time to like spend on yourself to go and get the education, get plugged in with the networks, make those connections. And that's just something I have not done.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you, and it's talking about that York deal, right? So kind of a confusing setup, right? But essentially, I've got them to where it's my wife's family, but it's one of those things where it's been sitting there for 7 years. If it was 2 years older, it'd probably be, need to be bulldozed type of deal.
Yeah.
Just because I had a mold remediation guy in there, and he was like, listen, like, if 2 years down the road, you guys then we just say you just need to tear it down. But it's to the point where it's going to cost me $15,000 to get rid of the mold, which is fine. But he's just like, if you wait any longer, it would have been worse, right? So I'm glad that I'm able to help them out on that side of things. But I'm in a situation where I was like, at first I was going to wholesale it because I've never done a project that big. It's 3,000 square feet, full renovation, really. I mean, walls don't need to be, the only demo that will need to be done is like the kitchen would have to be a full gut. But we went over and it was like probably going to be about 100,000, right? Well, I got them to, they're willing to own or finance it, essentially. It's like nothing up front, zero payments, for a period of time at like $200K. And so I'm like, okay, what would be your suggestion on, I don't have to pay anything until I sell the property, but what would be your suggestion? What's the best way on something like that to get it? Would it just be trying to like sit down with someone and get some private money for that $100,000 to fix it up? In your opinion, should I just go in and try and, do, because there's a couple things that are like big, right? Like the roof is going to be $25K. The plumbing is going to have to be dug up from the house to the street. That's probably going to be $20K.
Yep.
So a couple of major things that'll probably make up half the expense. So my thought has kind of been like, well, I'll go in there, pay for all the cosmetic stuff, etc. And then when I'm, towards the end and all that needs to be done is the roof, the kitchen, and the plumbing dug up, I'll get like a hard money loan so I can just, keep it short, keep it sweet, borrow 50, 60 grand and kind of flip that. Do you think that's the best way to do something like that?
I would say so. You just got to get a lender that's comfortable having that second lien holder position. Because if it gets deeded into your name, the seller finance note with your family, that would be first lien holder, right? So whoever's lending money on it, which there's people will be willing to do that, right? But they would have second lien holder.
And I'm going to pay more for it.
Yep.
Okay. That's just something I've been trying to figure out in my head. It's like, how do I go about this, right?
And your ARV on that's what, like 450 or something?
Yeah.
Something like that?
So I'm like, there's plenty of, there's a good margin to be had there. But it's a much larger project than I've ever done. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit scary. Part of the reason that I'm doing it, I was just talking to my brother-in-law, like part of the reason I want to do it is even just for the experience and the add to like my portfolio of like being able to show this project that I did. That's a really big project. You know? And it's, I mean, how often do you get something, at that price with people willing to just say, hey, owner finance, zero payments for 12 months, you know what I mean? And pay me off at the end.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that was another question I had for you. But like I said, man, I know you're busy, man. I'm going to make it down to Columbia one of these days here soon.
Sweet.
And like I said, if you're ever up here in Greenville, and if there's anything I can ever do for you, obviously let me know.
Sounds good, bro. Absolutely.
And I actually got a couple things I want to send you, just deals that I have that I'm like, what do I do with this? Like in Anderson, I've got a commercial property that's like 1.5 acres that I've got a really good price on it. And it's got a 1,600 square foot cylinder block building that's gutted. And I'm like, what do I do with this? Do I go to car dealers and try and find someone that needs, a space or something like that? So I might, send you some of those and pick your brain on those at some point as well.
Yeah. And there's like business brokers too that, well, one, they help people like structure and sell their businesses. But people that are well plugged into like the communities, obviously a local person's going to be your best bet for a big commercial thing like that, especially in, smaller, somewhat rural town, but it's also on the up and up. I would try to get in touch with a business broker, bro. Some old school guy that, maybe has been in real estate a long time and knows everyone in Anderson. There's people they got like sticky notes on their desks of a bunch of different people that have like either 1031 exchange money that they're looking to roll into something. It opens up your eyes a lot, bro, when you really learn how to like leverage the power of your network, right? But
right.
My biggest gap is being clean with like whenever I have someone that's got a lot of money they want to park, in organizing that in a fashion that I could quickly access it. Like having a spreadsheet or something. It's big in like the commercial space, and as you start to deal with like bigger sized assets, I know they have a equity exchange group up there in Greenville, in the upstate. Dude, that stuff's next level. But literally, bro, these people they'll exchange assets. Like someone's got a commercial building, someone else has a mobile home park, and for whatever reason, they're looking to like swap something over. One, you're avoiding taxes, but two, you're like creative deal structuring and figuring out based on each individual's need and, ability to manage or whatever they're looking for in that season. Like, dude, equity swaps are a big thing,
That's a
bro.
big thing, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good to know. I'll look into that. Sweet.
Dude,
Sweet.
Michael Fernandez would be a good contact for that too, bro. He's up in your area. He's a beast.
I'm gonna meet with him because he goes to my gym here in Greenville. So we've chatted a couple times.
Yeah.
So I might sit down with him and pick his brain on some of that as well.
Dude, Michael's all into that equity swap stuff, and he's got a lot of big money people that they got liquidity or they got 1031 money floating that they're ready to park it into something. So big deals like that, it'd be worth a conversation with him for sure.
Okay, cool. Hey, did you ever get in contact with that guy in Columbia?
Dude, no, I called him. He didn't answer. I sent him a text message. He got back and said, cool, I'm working. I'll call you back when I get out. Never got the call. And then I called him again. I called him last week again, dude. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to connect.
Okay. I'll hit him up and just tell him. Because I told him that you reached out, but...
His name's Jason, right?
Hey, man. Jason, yeah. I'll get him to reach out to you. Because, again, it was someone sent me his contact and was like, hey, can you help this guy out? So I'll connect with him and have him reach out to you this week.
Perfect.
Hopefully something can come of it. I know he's got a decent bit of equity in there, so and he's kind of like, I just want to do something and do it quickly.
Dude, I'll move on that thing for real.
All right, I'll send him your way this week. All right, brother.
Sweet, sounds good, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely,
We'll talk soon. All right.
Sounds good, brother, man.
All right.
All right, peace.